Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is our 11th session now on Qadar, divine determining. We are reading the 26th word by Imam Nursi from his book, The Words, and this chapter is about Qadar, or divine determining. So last week we finished up the third topic and we talked about this question about whether believing in divine determining is restrictive or it's freeing. So we, read this metaphor or story about two men who traveled to a palace owned by a king, and one of them decided to take ownership of everything that was there, of the gardens, of the animals, of the going on, what was going on in the palace, and was extremely burdened by all these duties and responsibilities. Um, that man felt overwhelmed, felt pity, felt um, unease at the situation he put himself in. And the other man realized that the palace, the garden, everyone in it were already under the dominion of someone who could actually control everything without getting overwhelmed or tired, and was acting with wisdom and mercy. So there was these two different views of looking at life, and how belief in Qadar, having that certainty about Qadar and what it means, makes us feel. And last week, some of the discussion revolved around this idea that once we make the decision to live from the ruh and live intentionally, then it's like flipping a switch. Everything changes in our perspective. So, one example we had given last week was um, something like the daily prayers, which might feel burdensome or tiring or repetitive, right? When we start living this way, living from the ruh, living consciously, we're being intentional, then those same prayers will start becoming like something that we look forward to, something that relaxes us. So in both scenarios, we're still doing the prayer, but it's how we are feeling about it, how we're seeing it, that completely changes. So this sort of like breakthrough happens only when we make that choice, or like decide how we want to live, from where we want to live. Um, yeah, so before we start the fourth topic, I'll open it up, and I know there were some reflections in the chat, in the group chat at least, on WhatsApp. So if anyone would like to share those so we can have it in recording, or if you guys have any other reflections from last week, please share now, and then we can start reading, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'll be brief this time. I'm just going to repeat the parts that I've made bold in my notes that are worthy of repetition for myself, first and foremost. And then I'll share something that helped me practically with reading the universe and reading the happenings in my life based on last week's halaqah. So Dr. Yamina was sharing that we can't see the truth about Qadar, the truth about how it's Allah Most High creating everything, if it feels like I am doing something in my life. So if it feels like I'm burdened by something, if it feels like I have so many things to do, if it feels like I have to hurry up and finish things, then I am completely disconnected from the reality, which includes Qadar, as opposed to the ayah that we come back to again and again is وَمَنْ صَدَّقَ بِالْحُسْنَى, whoever can confirm the truth of the most beautiful, inspiring you, moving you, then that being is then moved to the path of ease, is acting in the name of God, is flowing through his mercy and not burdened by this false claim of needing to do something. Everything is actually made to be done for me. So the perception is everything. Also, we talked about freedom, like Norbanu shared, so I won't touch on that part in the notes because she captured it. Belief in Qadar, the conclusion of last week's halaqah, was that everything is coming into being right now with rahmah, mercy, love, hikmah, wisdom, with benefits for both this world and the next. Dr. Yamina said that this is belief in Qadar. If it doesn't seem like it doesn't mean that it's not. It means that my perception has to be questioned. And oftentimes our perception falls short in only including what I want to happen in dunya. So the two things that are mistaken about that is that we've completely lost sight of eternity. That which benefits me eternally might not be what I like, or is often not what I like in this world. And whenever I am so convinced that I want something to happen a certain way and it must happen the way I want it to happen, that in itself is shirki, uh, associating creative power with God, because then you think that the thing itself has power. Oh, when I get this, I'll be happy. If only I had this, things would be better. Then you're giving the this, whatever this might be, fill in the blank for you, some sort of power to affect change in your feelings. And in that, we're giving the thing itself power with God. The part that I love the most about last week's halakha that really touched my heart, and I'll just be really brief. I am here in New York, and I heard such a bizarre story of a woman who gave birth in Brooklyn in the middle of the street and in the middle of an area with several buildings that could see her. One being this woman didn't take care of the baby, just stuffed the baby in a bag, was completely out of it. One person was made to see, called the cops. Cops followed the trace of blood, found her. The baby was no longer breathing. They gave CPR to the baby. The baby was unfortunately in a state of addiction, given the mother's state. And subhanAllah, who ends up telling me the story is a father that was sitting beside me who is retired and who happened to retire early, who takes care of his children, who then had this newborn for 2 weeks. And he just told me, I never removed this baby off my chest for the first 2 weeks. And it was his wife's best friend that then was asked to take the baby into custody because she already had her older sister in foster care. Um, when I heard this story, I immediately was extremely touched because it sounds so awful. Like, what kind of mother, or how could you in the middle of the street rip the umbilical cord? I mean, the story was just really brutal. Um, and so it's easy to look at part of that brutality and judge, like, what kind of mother? How sick is the situation? Like, what a poor baby. And then when you look at the taqdeer, one person, who knows? Only Allah knows how many people saw. One person called. The police arrived at just the right time to and were made to follow the blood stains to find this baby who was no longer breathing. And then just the limit of the amount of time that was needed to give CPR to save this baby. And now this baby that was brought into existence, anybody would feel bad and then question God or just judge what an awful and stop there. But then this man is telling me because she wasn't able to get off immediately to take this baby into care, which she immediately said yes when somebody said, a social worker said, "Hey, you have the older sister. Would you be willing to take the baby?" Um, and she said yes, but by the time she was able to get off, it took time. He said, "I kept that baby on my chest for 2 straight weeks, and now the baby is completely healthy." And it just touched my heart because that love was measured and precise to to facilitate care for this innocent child. So what Dr. Yamina ended with last week, which helped me read this situation with more beauty, with his names, was that you can't just take one part and leave the other message. You have to read them together. You're going to read your grief alongside the care that comes with it. You can't say, "Oh, this is such a horrible situation," and then not see all of the love that he poured into every single being that took. So you can't read your grief without the love. You can't take one part without reading the other. You have to read the feeling and the event and all of the measured, precise happenings together. Um, And so I'll pause there. I know it was a story that touched my heart. And I also want to share Ziba's reflection. I'm not sure if she's here yet. Oh, she is here. Ziba, would you like to share your reflection, please, that you put in the chat today, inshallah?
Subhanallah, Sarah, such a touching story, and what else to say? The one who is in charge, who moves the heart and who moves the
Ziba, your
creation.
sound is a little muffled. Can you maybe change the position of the microphone, maybe?
Let me just a minute. Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I was just reflecting on your story, mashallah. Subhanallah. Subhanallah, like Khairul Hafiza, he's the one who is the protector, the caretaker, and who moves so many hearts and the whole creation, around that baby to move. And alhamdulillah. So yeah, in front of this story, my reflection is so it was just a way to practice what we learned during the week. So yeah, my reflection was mostly whenever a small worry or something comes up in your mind that, oh, I need to do this and it's not happening the way I want it to happen. So just consciously changing into, let me see what Allah has in store for me and how He'll move things, and then just a change of, I think, your lenses. Instead of seeing it as oh, nothing is going to happen, and so like just a small example of after school Quran program we run here. Just it's 2 days a week and after school. So every now and then it happens that one or two teachers are, they tell us at the last moment that they're not able to come. And but if I think it's natural to have uh, a worry that, oh, what will happen. But if we are conscious enough to see, how Allah will make it happen, and how we will be moved, and who else will be moved during this short time, and then focusing on all the positives during this whole process, and by the end of the deal, you can just, you say, Allah, you are the one, like, who moves everything, how everything happened, and then you are ought to go in sujood once you look back and you feel, Allah, you are the best planner, and you made it happen. You moved this person's heart, and then even the people who step up, like, I'm in awe. Like, sometimes I just see, a mother saying, okay, no, I'm here, I can fill up that class. And so it's not us who is doing it, it's he who is doing, and he moves the hearts. But the process doesn't become painful or anxiety driven, then if you are witnessing, then you start seeing his hand, the ease, and how things are brought together. And so it becomes a witnessing moment for the planner, the merciful, the wise. And you see so many beautiful names coming out of the same situation, which you might have lost the opportunity to see if we didn't if we were just driven by anxiety and frustration and all that. And I had a Sister Ali is not there, but she had a story to share about a neighbor of hers. Like, she sells food in the market, city market, like cakes and stuff. So she came to her door to give some of the treats she makes, and she was very frustrated. And she looked very frustrated, and the Sister Ali asked her, like, what happened? Like, why do you look so sad and frustrated? She said, someone ordered 2 Russian honey cakes, and I put so much effort, and when I took it to the market, they were not there. And subhanallah, Sister Alia there were 2 events in the community, and she wanted to order something, and she was thinking, what should she order for the family? There was an engagement, and then we had an event in the community. So subhanallah, like, if that person knew, like, had not knew, but if she was looking at with the same curiosity and excitement, that, oh, I made these cakes, who are these for now, let me just if we have those lenses, so Sister Alia bought both of them, and we got to enjoy those cakes. And the one who made it was also happy, and we were happy to taste those cakes. And they were meant to be at like people who never knew that they would taste those cakes. So subhanallah, like, if we could even have a little, tawakkul, or you can say the right lens, so it would change those moments which might become painful for us into something which has some excitement or some positivity. Yeah, that was my.
Thank you, Ziba. And yeah, I like the summary, shifting from anxiety to curiosity. Even the question, right? The framing that you're doing, Ziba, which is something happens and then we ask, oh, what does God have in store for me? What is Allah planning for me? Even being able to ask such a question, I think in that state of mind, just reminds me who's in charge and gives me a peace, like a peaceful moment. And I was thinking, This is something I experienced this week, and I feel like it's a very, very tiny version of this phenomenon. So, I have a friend, and she loves watching like Korean TV shows, and she has been telling me to watch Korean TV shows since we were in high school. And I always said, oh, they're not really like my style. But I finally like caved in and I was like, okay, I'll watch one of them, which you tell me is like the best one. Um, and then, she gave me a recommendation and I watched it and I really liked it. And then I was telling her, okay, like you won me over, so I'll give these a chance. And she went and did a whole list for me that is like an Excel spreadsheet. It has the name, it has her little summary for it, like what she thinks about it. It has a star rating and it has where I can watch it and what she thinks is important for me to know. For example, like I cry very easily, so she put some TV shows there that are really touching, and she was like, "This is a really good story, but you'll cry a lot, so make sure you have a box of tissues." Um, and she did this Excel spreadsheet within like an hour of me telling her like, I want to watch these things. And that in itself was just like a show of her affection and love, right? And she's very excited to share this with me. And so I watched the next thing on the list, and this is like kind of an older show, it's like 10 years old at least. And the quality of these like special effects were a little like funny. So I was thinking, if I were watching this on my own, I would immediately like turn off the show. I'd be like, "Oh, this is so bad," or like cringe or something. Like I would just be like, "This is not worth watching." But because she recommended it to me and she was like, "This is one of my favorite shows. You have to watch it. You'll love it." I was like, "Okay, like I'm gonna give it a chance." And I really loved it by the end. And I keep messaging her now. Like for 2 days, I've been messaging her about all these different things. And I was telling her, at first, if she hadn't given me that sort of guidance and the list, if I was just looking around and trying different shows, I would have never watched that show to the end. I would have immediately closed it in the first episode. But because um I know her and I know that she knows me and she knows what I like, and our taste in things is usually aligned. I was like, I can trust her judgment on this. I'm gonna trust her judgment on this, even though I'm feeling like, oh, maybe this isn't something that I would enjoy. So I was like, trusting her judgment of the show overall is kind of like it's a small like experience wise, it's what Allah wants me to experience with him, right? Because when I think about my friend, I'm like, okay, she knows how the story ends. She knows the big picture. She has seen the whole thing. And so she knows that these first 10 minutes in the pilot episode is inconsequential to the rest of the story, or like how I feel about it is going to be dwarfed by how I feel about the rest of the story. And so I was thinking, okay, this is how Allah sees my life. He has seen the whole thing. And right now, I might be going through something that I don't particularly like. But if we remember from 2 weeks ago, we were saying like whatever is being created right now is perfect. Um, so I was just putting that like in the same alignment. It's like, okay, there is someone who knows me very well, who knows me best, and someone who loves me, and someone who wants me to like make the best of my life. And this is what I'm experiencing, like what is being created for me at this moment. So even though the first 10 minutes of my day or of like the first month of my year, whatever it is. This moment may not be ideal for me, but when I think about where it is coming from, right? And this is fundamental to Iman in Qadar. If I acknowledge and feel that everything that is being created in this way with wisdom, with love, with compassion, then I can say, okay, I just need to wait through this 10 cringe minutes, and then the rest of the story will actually be really, really worth it. So that's what it reminded me of. And I want to share that with you guys. Israbla, do you want to share out loud?
Yes, sure. I can't recall the name of the sheikh, but a Muslim sage said something like this, that the unaware person wakes up in the morning and, says, let me see what I will do today. He thinks about what he will do that day. And whereas the wise person wakes up and says, let's see what the Lord is going to do with me today. And that connects with Dr. Yamina's earlier last week's emphasis on shifting from stress and anxiety, as Ziba was also giving an example of shifting from anxiety to curiosity. What will God, make unfold before me in my wisely planned destiny, that attitude.
I love that. What will God do with me today? Okay. So if you guys have any other reflections, go ahead. If not, we'll start reading the fourth topic, inshallah. Now, Dr. Amina, I saw that you commented tawakkul and sabr after Ziba's reflection. Did you want to add anything before we start the fourth topic?
No, inshallah. Thank you.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad. Fourth topic. If you say, in the first topic, you proved that everything about divine determining is good and beautiful. Even the evil that comes from it is good, and the ugliness beautiful. But the disasters and tribulations in this world refute that statement. The answer, O my soul and my friend who feels severe pain out of intense compassion. That's probably all of us. The facts that all virtues and perfections return to existence, and that the basis of all rebellion, calamities, and defects is non-existence, are a proof that existence is pure good and non-existence pure evil. Since non-existence is pure evil, circumstances that either result in non-existence or give an inkling of it also comprise evil. Therefore, life, the most brilliant light of existence, proceeding through different circumstances, finds strength. It encounters varying situations and is purified. It takes on numerous qualities and produces the desired results, and enters many stages and displays comprehensively the impresses of the Bestower of life's names. It is due to this fact that certain things happen to living creatures in the form of griefs, calamities, difficulties, and tribulations, whereby the lights of existence are renewed in their lives, and the darkness of non-existence draws distant, and their lives are purified. For arrest, repose, silence, idleness, rest, and monotony are all, both in quality and as conditions, non-existence. Even the greatest pleasure is reduced to nothing by monotony. Okay, I'll read the in short and then we'll come back to the beginning here. In short, since life displays the impresses of the most beautiful names, everything that happens to it is good. For example, an extremely rich and infinitely skillful person who is proficient in many crafts, for an hour and in return for a wage, clothes a miserable wretch in a bejeweled, artistically fashioned garment. This garment he made in order to make the miserable man act as a model and to display the works of his art and his extensive wealth. He works the garment on the man, gives it various forms, and alters it. In order to display every variety of his art, he cuts it, changes it, and lengthens and shortens it. Can the poor man receiving the wage be justified if he says to the person, "You're giving me trouble. You're making me bow down and stand up. By cutting and shortening this garment, which makes me more beautiful, you're spoiling my beauty"? Does he have the right to tell him, "You're acting unkindly and unfairly"? Thus, like him, in order to display the impresses of his most beautiful names, the all-glorious Maker, the peerless Creator, alters with numerous circumstances the garment of existence. He clothes unliving creatures, bejeweled with senses and subtle faculties like eyes, ears, the reason, and the heart. He changes it within very many situations. Among these are circumstances in the form of suffering and calamity, which show the meanings of some of his names, and the rays of mercy within flashes of wisdom, and the subtle instances of beauty within those rays of mercy. Okay, so the question or comment for the fourth topic is this. If you guys will remember, in the first topic, in the beginning of the treatise, we talked about everything about divine determining being good and beautiful. And part of this was realizing in our own lives that nothing good comes from us. And here, the counter argument or claim is, okay, you say that divine determining is good and beautiful. Even the evil that comes from it is good, and the ugliness is beautiful. But the disasters and tribulations in this world refute that statement, right? So and we have often talked about this, right, in the last 10 sessions. Some things that we witness, we see, are so disastrous, so horrendous, so X, Y, and Z that it's hard to say that it is good and beautiful. So this is the pain point, I guess. And here's the answer. And this answer, I'm just going to read it again. Maybe we can go sentence by sentence because I feel like it's very compact. O my soul and my friend who feel severe pain out of intense compassion. Which reminds me also, if you guys remember, in the last story of the man who was stealing from the palace, this man, he pitied everything. He could not govern them. He passed his time regretfully. So again, we have this experience that I think, for me at least, it feels very true. Feeling severe pain out of intense witnessing something, seeing something, and then feeling pain because I can't help or I can't do anything. Why is that happening? Why is there this kind of suffering? What did those people do to deserve that? And that feels painful. So, in this sense, I feel like this paragraph is going to address me. So, the facts that all virtues and perfections return to existence, and that the basis of all rebellion, calamities, and defects is non-existence, are a proof that existence is pure good and non-existence pure evil. Since non-existence is pure evil, circumstances that either result in non-existence or give an inkling of it also comprise evil. Therefore, life, the most brilliant light of existence, proceeding through different circumstances, finds strength, it encounters varying situations and is purified. It takes on numerous qualities and produces the desired results, and enters many stages and displays comprehensively the impresses of the Bestower of life's names. I have a hard time understanding why non-existence is pure evil. Because when I think of the counter argument here, and this is something Ustad Nursi speaks about in other parts of the Risale-i also, but it's still something I haven't fully become certain about myself. But why is it that existence, no matter what, is preferable to non-existence? Because I feel like if someone asked me, would you rather exist and suffer or not exist and not suffer, I would choose not exist. So it doesn't seem like existence is purely good or always preferable to non-existence. This is my first question here, I guess. How can we know, or how can we feel that existence is pure good? Maybe I'll stop there. Any thoughts on this first bit, question and answer part? Okay, Minna has the same question. Fair. Does anyone not feel that way? Like, is anyone thinking or reading this and saying that makes sense to me? Like, existence is good no matter what.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you, Nurvano, for reading. I am paying attention to this and I'm saying that in my heart, and that yes, we need to welcome all of the events in our life, difficulties or hard trials or hardships. And at the same time, I cannot discount or dismiss the feeling of sadness or helplessness that it does give us. But at the same time, existing with the purpose of making dua to Allah and praising Him, which uh, becomes more automatically becomes more sincere, happens when we are in pain. because we are calling on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And hence now it makes sense to me that we should be always thanking Allah on a very like basic level, but when it comes to facing up with the hardships, then existence is a way to witness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created me with the ability or the capability to withstand what is in my qadar. If it is something from an evil, like let's say hasad, or if it is illness, or if it is a loss of any kind, personal or financial, or a delay in something that I'm hoping to have. And I guess that's where they're saying that, Imam Nursi, that therefore life, the most brilliant light of existence, proceeding through different circumstances, finds strength. Yeah. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah, Sarah. I don't want to, I think my problem with this is I feel like I'm coming from a place of imitation, not authentic, like how I feel. So two things, right? One of them is there are some people who are very like famous writers, philosophers, artists who have had really challenging lives full of disasters and tribulations. And in the end, you know, they write memoirs or something, and they say, okay, no matter what, life is worth living. Or they say, long live life. Like something about life is just worth it, despite everything that I have suffered. And the people saying these aren't people who suffered lightly, you know. They are people who went through really, really hard things in life. And for me, that doesn't feel very intuitive. And these people aren't coming from a place of like God conscious living. So I feel like if I were to be in a hard situation, I know that I should say, you know, this is all Qadar. And this feels like still even now, okay, after being with the halakha for the last 10 weeks, I feel like I'm not saying it purely imitatively, but still there's a part of me that is, if I were given the choice to suffer greatly and live or to not suffer, I feel like there was still a part of me who would choose not to suffer and not exist. So I don't know how to. Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
stop.
I agree with your sentiment. At the same time, the idea of not existing at all, there's a part in me is totally detests that idea, to the point of saying I'd rather have a difficult life rather than just being nothing. I think, but I do think that there are circumstances, if I was tortured, for instance, I would want to die and not feel that pain. But you know, when you die, hope the torture goes, but you're not necessarily becoming non-existent. You're moving on to some other realm. So perhaps that's not. It's not the idea that how much torture you can take. That's not the question. How much pain can you take and not want to die? Uh, that's not the question. The question is recognizing that we deeply, somewhere deep, and I do sometimes feel this really, that I do want to exist regardless of what. Um, and then non-existence here, Sarah said in the chat, thinking about destruction. I think, yeah, there are degrees of non-existence. So in the story that Sarah shared earlier in the session, that mother abandoning the child, that is a moment of non-existence, right? I mean, the mother exists, but then she is voiding the compassion or the capacity that's given to take care of the baby. She's voiding that. She's undoing that. And in that sense, it is something towards non-existence. And again, I'm not judging the person who knows what mental state they were in, but that lack of compassion, lack of care is the moment that's going into non-existence, perhaps. Perhaps he means non-existence in that sense of destruction, undoing some beautiful quality. My challenge is the other way around. I do think that existing is beautiful. Oh, I also wanted to mention, as you were talking, came to my mind, there was a TED talk that I watched a long time ago. In this, the woman was telling the story that she gets a very, she gets flu one day, and she thinks she's going to go back to work and so on, but it turns out it's not flu. It has flu symptoms. It's a very, very rare disease, and very serious disease. So at the end, they have to chop off her legs for her to save her. So she loses her legs, I think, knee down. Can you imagine, like, having flu symptoms, going home, and then within a short period of time you actually have no legs? And she was in depression for a long time, and then she I think she finally had, I forget the details, but she finally had a breakthrough internally. I'm going to accept this instead of resisting this. And then she went through things, and then things happened, and she was able to live with it, and she was able to do things that she wouldn't even think of doing after getting her not replacement legs, but what is that called?
Prosthetics?
Yeah. And what was most interesting to me, at the end of the talk, she said, if I were given the choice whether I go through this at all or not, may this flu, and then you end up losing your legs and stuff, or just the flu, that's it. She said, I would have picked this one. And it wasn't the rosy story that she told. I mean, eventually she did things that was amazing, but so that is relating to what you've said, Nurbanu, that and what Cyrus shared, that we do not want sickness or these difficulties and so on, and yet even though they seem evil because something is lacking in that situation, but in responding to it and in struggling in that process, we are actually showing more signs of life, and then becoming more conduits of or recipients of beautiful names of God to manifest through us, whether it's compassion or power or wisdom, or being taken care of min haythu la yahtasib, as the verse says, verse in the Quran says, as God will provide from what you don't expect. And to see that beauty, we need to go through these things. At least mentally, I'm okay with that. My concern, or like the difficulty I'm having, is this, a lot of the destruction that I see doesn't just seem like Adam or non-existence to me. I'm still struggling with the idea that they seem real. And we did talk about this earlier in this series. And actually, Dr. Emina encouraged us to ask for forgiveness from imagining that these destructive forces and elements, people have genuine power. And I'm still kind of trying to get there, especially looking at global events and how people can destroy each other's lives. It still looks real to me. I mean, there's a real element to it, definitely, but how do you separate that from how to see that this is really going into non-existence, all of this evil is looks, it has the stuff, but actually it's all going into non-existence.
Okay, so we have a couple of different questions here. One about how we should understand non-existence and what non-existence means in terms of what we're observing, especially when it comes to the evil that we observe around us. One. Two, whether existence is pure good. And three, this idea that it is through the challenges, tribulations, and disasters that life, the most brilliant light of existence, is able to shine more brightly. Okay, that's where I'm so far. So let's, before we go any further, let's start there. Dr. Yamina, what do you think?
Assalamu alaikum. I was not clear about what part you find disturbing. If it is, for instance, the pain, then this is something that we talked about in the past weeks. I find myself disliking pain, disliking injustice, disliking this and that. Let's say I'm disliking things that are common, not disliking this color or that. And what does it mean? If I dislike pain, it means this is the creation. I am created with the dislike for injustice, for instance. It means I am created to like justice. I like health. I like well-being. I am made to like. And remember, we talked about this as well, maybe even in the treatise on Malaika, angels, and that everything is that exists is created. Anything that is created is always an ayah. It means it's always created. Now, this is not what we observed, what we witness. What we know from the Quran is that everything, since it is created, then it is an ayah, it is bearing messages from God, it is mirroring and reflecting the beautiful names of God. That's the most important things. If we live consciously as a believer, as a muhsin, as someone who consciously witnesses the rububiyyah activity in the world, then we witness how everything is proclaiming the beautiful names of God. We will see everywhere the beautiful names of God. Once we see the beautiful names of God in, for instance, we gave the example of the flower, when the flower is blooming and we see the beauty and the life and the colors and the attraction, and maybe it has therapeutic qualities and it's growing. All those things pertain to the beautiful names of God. And so that's the way that flower is making tasbih, proclaiming, making shahada, proclaiming the beautiful names of God and refuting that beauty belongs to it or anything else. It's making its tasbih. If I truly stay with the flower and truly experiences this shahada, then when the flower is wilting and dying, I don't see it as merely, it's ugly now. That ugliness is also speaking, it's also a message, it's also telling me, for instance, that Allah is the one who gives death, just like I saw that He was the giving of life. And now I am sure that the beauty is not from the plant itself, from the flower itself, but it is given to it. It comes and goes, and so it's making its tasbih even more clearly. And let's say in between, when the flower is still not totally dead, in between, it's not as pretty. There is a degree, there is still beauty, but less beauty. So there is, and when the shape of the flower is totally wilted, there is no beauty of the flower, there is the beauty of the message of the flower. So there are degrees in beauty and varieties of beauty of form, beauty of color, beauty of the meaning and message that it is bearing. But always there is something. If there is a creation, always it pertains to the beautiful names of God, and therefore it's always good. When we say things are not good, this plant is ugly, this insect is ugly, it's always relative, whether I'm not talking about the part where it's my perception. That's another topic. But let's say, even if truly we don't see the beauty as much as in a bird, for instance, in an insect, a cockroach, for instance, the less beauty is still within the degree. We are still talking about the beauty that we know is not there. So even when there is something non-existence, so the ugliness there pertains to the lack of the beautiful name's beauty. So non-existence is always the negation of an existing thing, and it always looks to the lack of goodness in this way. And so we can apply this to situations, and we can apply it to our feelings. So there is this part, and there is the to make sense of everything, we have to take into consideration that this world is only a tiny part. It's flowing all the time. So when we say this world, we're talking about the now. Before is not existence, the after is still not here, and it's flowing, and this flowing now is here to witness and prepare for the eternal hereafter. If we forget about the hereafter, nothing will make sense. So that pain, that evil will all become meaningless. And if it's meaningless, then of course it is unbearable, because it looks more to non-existence. Because even the existence that we experience, if it is not sourced in God, in the divine source, in eternity, in permanence, then even the so-called existence becomes almost like closer to non-existence than to existence. Then the more it becomes like that, the more it becomes ugly and evil and not good, and because it has no meaning, no purpose, and it is darkness for the human heart and soul, because we long for the beautiful names of God. We are created to long for the beautiful names of God, and the human heart can only find satisfaction in the beauty that is meaningful and permanent. Anything else pertains to non-existence, and therefore it's evil in that sense. And anything that pertains to existence, to creation, to the permanent, eternal, beautiful names of God, and therefore its goodness. And this is something that, in a way, it is a summary of Qadar, because it is a summary of all the pillars of belief. And it is, we can only confirm this and may be at peace with it, acknowledge it as our reality, when we start with the conscious witnessing of goodness. Anything that is good, anything that we appreciate, what is it in reality? If it is the thing itself, then we're stuck in the thing itself that is transient. And so we're not connected to the source. And so existence itself, we cannot say it's pure good now. And so non-existence, existence and non-existence are not really clear in my mind in that kind of universe where we live in a world that is so transient that even the now is almost like a mirage, like an illusion, and there is nothing to ground it. I can't even figure out the difference between existence and non-existence. That's why if I'm truly in pain, someone is being tortured, the dislike is real, and the dislike is what makes us go back to God, to ask for help, because that's what the abd is. It's not from me. And the dislike is not from me. And since you gave me the dislike, please give me also the faraj, the solution. Help me. But I dislike the pain, therefore I don't want to exist. It doesn't really make sense to me. I want the pain to stop. I want to be well. But what does it mean to be? I can't even imagine a non-existent thing, non-existence. I can only imagine it relatively, something not being. Actually, I'm saying, I'm not sure, I'm asking now, am I saying I don't want to exist in that painful state, which is totally how we are created. But if we miss that, if I attribute the dislike of the pain to myself, then life is going to be tough. And because I want to be able to find a door, a way out of my predicament. Wallahu a'lam.
Urbana, we can't hear you if you're speaking.
I wasn't. I'm trying to summarize. Okay, I guess where I still get stuck is when I dislike something, I know that the dislike is also being created in me, and the like for things to be pleasant and beautiful and eternal and just are also being created in me. I'm being created with a need for those things. And I think doing the reflection on existence is pure good and non-existence is pure evil is easy when I'm distanced from the disasters and tribulations, because when they're far away or when I'm not immediately impacted, I can say, oh, there is divine wisdom in these disasters and tribulations. And Allah is creating that disaster, and He's also creating a dislike in me for the disaster. Okay. Up till this point, I get it. But when I'm the one going through the disaster and tribulation, I have a harder time seeing it as
That's normal too. That's why in good times we nurture our iman and we get to know God more and more until it becomes ihsan, it becomes the way we are, the way we experience the world, and we see God's beautiful names everywhere so that we can trust Him, so that in times of hardship, it doesn't mean when there is hardship, I can always see the wisdom in it. I may not be able to. But the other part of Iman is sabr, patience and perseverance in that Iman, in that tawakkul, in trust. I trust, as you said, like the beginning of the show is really weird, or I don't understand what's going on. But even my friend said, gave me a good review, I trust her. Now, Rabbul Alameen, that I know to a certain extent, is the one who is telling me, I do not create anything without meaning or purpose or wisdom or rahmah. So I experienced this, I witnessed this. So now I don't see the rahmah maybe, but I stay present with it. I persist in my trusting. I am patient. That's sabr. And the more there is sabr, the more Allah will reveal, even in hardship, إِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. Even in hardship, there is ease. Allah gives the ease with the sabr. Maybe the situation is still hard, but compared to someone without the iman, without the patience of and the tawakkul, the trust of the believer, living the same situation, they will go mad. So we are not going to compare the hardship with ease, with the situation is all good. We're comparing the same hardship, the believer and the non-believer. Huge difference. Allah gives that strength and that ease within the hardship. And remember that for the believer, This is all passing. So the more there is presence and ihsan, the more there is focus on the now. Otherwise, there is the anxiety of, and what if it carries on for days and weeks and months and years? Just a second. There is only now. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah will give me the patience for now and tomorrow. And afterwards, Allahu A'lam. When He gives the new situation, He will give with it His sabr and ease and whatever is needed. Because I am not the source. I surrender. I surrender. I don't try to own. I have to be patient. I choose to be patient, and I ask Allah to make it easy onto me. So it's not Jannah, it's not paradise. There is going to be ups and downs, and as we are told in, where was it, Surah Al-Baqarah? Was it that we will test you? وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ We will try you. وَلَنَبْلُوَكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. So we will definitely test you or try you with خوف وجوع, with fear and hunger, and ونقص من الأموال, and a lack of property or loss of property, والأنفس, and a lack of loss of lives and crops, وبشر الصابرين, and give good news to those who are patient and steadfast. Who are, and these people are الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. These sabirin, those people who are patient and steadfast, when hardship befalls them, they say, when they're afflicted with hardship, they say, we belong to God and to Him we are returning. It means, this is important, we belong to God. Everything belongs to Him. My life, my sight, my leg, everything. I don't want it. He made it so, how do you say, so valuable that normally I take it for granted, but the more we live consciously, the more we are grateful that we are healthy, that we can see, that we can talk, that we can understand, that we can stand up. All these things that we take for granted are great blessings. And if there is a calamity and some of it is taken away, we say it belongs to God. It went before me. We are all on a journey, and part of it went before me. Does it mean that I will be happy? The soul, it is a hardship, and we are made to grieve, because otherwise we wouldn't give it value, we wouldn't be grateful, we wouldn't appreciate it. It would be the same whether I see or I don't see, whether I'm healthy or I'm not healthy, whether I am sitting peacefully or I'm being bombed. Of course, there is a difference. That's why when everything is well, we are so grateful and appreciative. And so when some of it is taken or all of it is taken, we know that one day everything we are leaving, because we are present with the meaning and the purpose. It's not happening haphazardly without any meaning. That meaning increases our iman, therefore and our trust in the one who is in control. He does everything knowingly and everything for our good. Even the feeling that I have, the desire and the need that I have for everything to be the best is from him. So I trust that he's planning the best for his ibad. And with that trust, it becomes easier to be patient, even in hardship. But it's true that it's not going to be the same as when all is well. When all is well, our imtihan is how much consciously appreciative and grateful we are, and how much istighfar we make that we are not always grateful, we are not always in a state of ibadah to our Rabb. Most of the time we forget, so we make istighfar. I'm sorry. ما عرفناك حق معرفتك وما شكرناك حق شكرك وما عبدناك حق عبادتك.
Go ahead, Ziba.
Assalamu alaikum. Actually, I had this before I started attending receiving Nur Halaka. Whenever sickness would be there or any hardship would be there, I would say, I need to have sabr and endure and have, like, I didn't see it as an opportunity. I just saw it that I have to endure because this is what a Muslim does. So the illness would come and go, and I would find myself miserable and in the same state as I was before, or maybe even after the illness left. It didn't bring me any. I didn't see any change in myself. Like I was more maybe frustrated by me, but subhanallah, receiving Noor and Sister Yamina and Dr. Ali's halaqas have changed this look towards hardship or what we see as calamity. And just being from the medical background, like there's an example, like when you are diabetic, sometimes the people who are diabetic, their foot, they stop feeling, they stop having sensation in their feet. So if there's a thorn that pricks it, they don't even realize there's a thorn, or if something is hurting them, they don't even realize it, and it is not beneficial for them because that hurt and that infection, it develops and it grows without them knowing that it's growing there. So if they had the sensitivity, they would immediately take care of it and benefit from knowing that the pain was there to let them know that, oh, there is some infection. So same is the case with a calamity or hardship. When it comes to you, it comes catered to my need and what I need. It's an opportunity for some change in myself and my perspective. So if we don't see, if that hardship didn't change our perspective, and I didn't see or compare it, even like I take health for granted, if I'm sick and I didn't see a Shafi there in action, and I took that for like, then I didn't benefit from that hardship, So whatever is coming towards us, it is catered to us, and sometimes we don't even know what is it coming to teach us. But just being open to the teaching and even comparing it to the before and after, like it didn't exist before and it won't exist afterwards. So what being looking for moments of hamd in that moment, like there are so many other things which we are already receiving. That hardship would feel very minute or minuscule because there's so much of positives and blessings which we are surrounded with. But when we focus on that hardship and we can't see past it, or we can't compare it to times of ease or times afterwards, then I think we are ourselves on the road of having what do you say, giving up hope, basically. So that was like the change, which shift which I felt after attending these halqas, that now any small or big hardship, when it comes, it has to transform. It is for transformation for us to a different stage. We won't be like transcending and being the all-knowing and everything, but it should change something in our, and some action is required. Sometimes we don't know what action is required, but it should not go in vain, So Allah doesn't send anything without it being meant for us, and that's the Qadir, and with the miqdar, he knows that is required for us.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you, Ziba. At the end you said it is meant, and actually the ayah that I just shared, where in English it's always translated as when a hardship, when you are afflicted with hardship, when a hardship befalls you, but the Arabic is إذا أصابتهم مصيبة. Asaba is when you reach something on purpose, you mean it. So musiba is something, it has the connotation of calamity and hardship, but the literal word has that it's something that is happening on purpose. It's not just randomly coming to you. So yeah, alhamdulillah. But definitely, Nurbanu, it's okay. Not only it's okay, but that's the fitra. You cannot, unless you are, I don't know, I think even the Prophet, they are human beings. It's not the same, the feeling in when all is well and when there is hardship. In times of peace, in times of war, in times of health, and in times of illness. The imtihan is different. The trial is different. One is gratitude, appreciation, and that will be our worship. And the other one, and tasbih, so that we are not caught into cause and effect, and seeing everything directly from God, witnessing the beautiful names of God, manifesting, and seeing the bestower behind the blessing. And in times of hardship, we are not going to feel like elated, happy, or maybe someone who is really like the prophets or the awliya, but that's the ruh part. It does not mean that there is no sadness. We see in the Quran the prophet, but he's sad because something happened. He lost his son, for instance, or something. He needs something. He's afflicted with illness. So if they didn't have that sadness, how would I seek, for instance, health if I am ill? So that's together with the sadness and the fear in times of war, and which make us closer to God and ask help from God and prostrate, at least metaphorically and physically, to our Rabb. At the same time, the meaning within it, as Ziba said, it's all because it's also meant for me. It is also Allah is teaching me how to be closer to Him, how to know, to fulfill the purpose of my being here in this world. From that perspective, it is a ni'mah. For the ruh, it is a ni'mah. The ruh is at peace. There is tranquility, there is sakina, even when the body is in pain, and the heart is also in pain, there is anxiety, there is fear, but there's no despair, because it's fear and pain, and that takes us back to God, that transform into means of getting to know our ubudiyah, how much we need the beautiful names of God to manifest into our world. So it's normal to feel that way. It's just that it's missing the other part. But the other part is not going to come by dismissing the fear or trying to overcome the fear. No, the fear needs to be transformed. The fear or the anxiety or the pain, or they are going to be what takes us closer to God, and because they make us aware of our needs for protection, for help, and they make us more aware of who we are as abd, totally in need of our Rabb. And so it's a time of tasbih, a time of glorification, and a time of feeling very close, maybe even closer to God than when we are in blessings.
I want to add something.
Go ahead, please, Minna.
Okay, so actually it was I wanted this is for Nubanu actually, because about the existence and non-existence problem. I don't want to say problem, but like some thinking about it. So you remember the fire like happened in Turkey a couple of weeks ago, like in a hotel.
Yes.
Yeah, it was the winter break. People went there for a vacation, for a winter vacation with their kids and everything. And unfortunately, because of a big fire, and I think about 70 people died, and like 36 of them, I'm not sure about the numbers, but they were like kids. And actually, I was watching the news and everything, and I saw a clip. The thing is, one of the ladies, okay, she was staying at the hotel, and she was recording herself right before during the fire. Okay, and it was her actual person in the middle of fire, and actually she was in her room. The room was not on fire yet, but she was sending this video to her sister, and she was saying, there's and in the background you can hear the people screaming and everything. And she was saying, my sister, I think we are gonna die in here. And what this she said something. It was kind of like eye-opening for me. You know what she said? She said, we are gonna die here. I think we cannot make it out of here, and life was good. And this was her last sentence. So she wasn't saying like, oh, why did I come to this earth? Why did Allah created me or something like this? I'm not sure like what kind of a person she is, but her last sentence was, life was good. So it was, I don't know, it was very different to hear that sentence from a person just about to die in fire. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Minna. Yeah, if you remember, that's kind of how I opened my question. There seems to be this enjoyment or celebration of life, even from people who aren't believers. I think the part of this that I'm having a problem with is a bit more tangential to the Qadar topic. So next week when I see Dr. Amina in person on Saturday, I mean, I'll ask her there. And if we think it's relevant, we'll bring it up in Halakha, inshallah. It is 10:05, so I want us to stop here, and inshallah next Tuesday, we will reread this last conclusion. And I'll open it up for any questions and last minute comments. Sarah, go ahead, please.
I just want to share this closing thought. I was looking at my phone about something I saved ages ago. It was a movie called War Room, I think, where a woman would quote unquote go to war in a prayer room where she put all the prayers posted up all over the walls. And I remember speaking with some dear sisters about this. Like, we should save our moments of when we've witnessed how he has come through for us in impossible situations, and then post those up somewhere so that when you're facing a new calamity, you go into that room and you see all of the incidences when you were faced with something hard and trialing and seemingly impossible, and you watched him part the seas for you. And I wonder if we would be able to trust and be patient better now when we remember. Like Dr. Yamina was saying, she brought it back to the soap opera. Like, your friend was like, trust me, it's really good. So what about Rabbil Alameen telling you, like, trust me, the end of this is very good. Like, and I remember telling a sister, a dear friend, who was just broken about a trial that was coming. And I was just like, imagine now, in retrospect, it's over now. And I was telling her recently, imagine if when you were in chapter 1, if somebody kept telling you, trust me, by the time you get to chapter 3 or chapter 5, it's going to be amazing. You're not going to be stressed. But she completely lost her cool and we kept trying all these different things like, wait, let's just be because it's easy to pour patience in someone else when it's not your calamity. So then the closing comment is, if you knew that chapter 5 was so much better than this chapter 2, like it ends up so well. And if you could just read a few pages ahead and you could see with certainty, like the ending is it's just amazing. Then how would we act now? And I have so many situations in my head coming up, like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. As I'm saying these things for a different day, maybe a different separate Zoom. And I think it's just so important to share those, like me and my brother call them Allahu Akbar moments, or just something, because then we all start filling up the spaces of like, oh yeah, that's who we're dealing with. And I think we would just calm down, inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I love that Allahu Akbar moment. A lot of this is, we talk about the post-its and the group chats, because we're forgetful. It's good to have ways to remind ourselves. Well, like when you were saying that, I was thinking, I have a note in my notes app where I keep track of tawafuk moments. So when things happened, like they aligned by divine will just so perfectly. And then I revisit those, like you said, when I'm wavering, let's say. But yeah, we can do this for gratitude. We can do it for any moments where we're in awe. So I think that's a really good practice. Okay, so let's stop here, and since we're not in a rush, we'll just reread the answer next week and go forward. some housekeeping things. On the 22nd, which is this upcoming Saturday, we are having our last lecture series, Living the Quran Before Ramadan Starts. So the topic on this Saturday will be, why is Ramadan the month of the Quran? So for anyone who'd like to trek, carpool, make a trip, we would love to see you guys in person. It'll be at 1:30 p.m. at the DCA library. And again, we will try to record and upload it as well for those who can't make it. In addition, during Ramadan, we will be having a Quran focused series. So can we at least do a quick poll of the participants here? We'll send 2 messages to the chat. One of them will say Saturday and one of them will say Sunday. So just emoji react to whichever day works better for you. And if both days work, you can react to both.
Sorry, because you're the host, there's a poll feature that you can use.
Let me see. That's great. Technology. Okay. Let's do this.
In terms of time, somebody asked time, we're looking at afternoon. We said 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. It could be 1:30 p.m. also, but I think at least one person is presenting from Europe, so I guess a bit later might work better for Fatma now.
Okay, I launched the poll. Please let me know if it's working. Okay, it is working. I see your votes. Your votes are anonymous, but I see that people are voting. Okay, while we do that, let me just close out here. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة على رسولنا صلوات.